This week, I discover a new way to floss a fish.
Looks like just a weed from the garden, but I think he's going to poke the marrow through the bone with it.
Yeah.
And I check out a meal that has become a universal favourite.
So it's sort of a Turkish version of an Australian meat pie.
I'm on a journey to discover the origins and secrets of Turkish cuisine. To really understand this food, I need to get to the source. So come with me as I travel from the Aegean Sea to the plains of Anatolia. From the heart of an empire in the west to the brooding Black Sea of the north. Then it's back to my kitchen to use what I've learned and give it my own spin. I'm heading to the southwest corner of Turkey, but along the way, there's something I just can't help noticing. Turkey and Greece live here side by side, and it's amazing to see just how close they are. As I keep looking off to my right, there's heaps of little islands, but that big one over there looks absolutely beautiful. But it's not a part of Turkey, that's Greece. That's the island of Lesbos. I'm on my way to Alach, 500 kilometres southwest of Istanbul, and a part of the Cheshme Peninsula that practically rubs shoulders with another Greek island, Chios. The town of Alach is a hidden gem, popular with Turkish holidaymakers. I'm dropping into a seafood restaurant, Ferdi Baba, run by former fisherman Murat Kabak. His parents were forcibly relocated here in a huge population swap with Greece after the Greco-Turkish War. It was in 1923, and the Ottoman Christians in Turkey went to Greece, while Muslim Greeks, like Murat's family, came to Turkey.
Merhaba.
Merhaba, Shane. Hoş geldin.
How are you?
He's making lakerde, a fish dish that's loved by Greeks and Turks alike. Best made from year-old Bonito, the cuts prepared and bloodline removed, as you would any large fish.
Ben Türk'üm. Annem babam Sakız adası ve annem Girit adasından buraya göçmüşler. Buraya da yaşamışlar mübadeleden sonra. Burada yaşamaya başlamışlar.
They brought to this part of Turkey the culinary knowledge of their former home. And his mum's secret to lakerde?
Bununla buradaki kanını temizleyeceğim.
What is this?
Süpürge çöpü. Mama süpürge.
Looks like just a weed from the garden, but I think he's going to poke the marrow through the bone with it.
Evet. Süpürge çöpü ya.
I would have just used the skewer. Maybe this is the secret. So I think these extra thistles on the side actually help the process. When you pull it out, it drags everything with it. Why do you need to take the marrow out?
Onu almazsak eğer balık kurtlanır. This bactery. Tuz.
To further clean the fish, Murat prepares a bath of iced water and salt.
Şimdi bu böyle tuzlu buzlu suyun içinde 2 gün, günde 3 sefer bu suyu değişecek.
After 2 days, the fish is taken out of the salted iced water and drained off with paper towels. It's then covered in salt to start the curing process.
Çok eskiden dolaplar olmadığından dolayı bunu böyle deli gibi sepetlere bol şekilde tuza basarlarmış. Ama artık saklama koşulları da dolaplar olduğu için o kadar fazla basmıyoruz.
The fish sits in salt for 4 days, and then it goes back into the brine for another 10 days. So it's a really involved curing process. Have you got any of the lakerde that's finished?
That's okay.
Yeah, can I see it?
Yes, yes.
Murat's restaurant is known as the best seafood joint in this town, and he takes me into his busy kitchen to taste his speciality.
Done?
So that's the
No?
that's the finished one now.
Finished,
Yeah?
okay, yeah.
And you can see like a little bit of mold on there, like you'd see on a cured ham or something. It's sort of the salt's created a bit of a mold layer.
Şöyle
But
susunlar.
we don't eat this. You cut it off.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, evet.
Okay.
Tek keseceğim, şimdi temizleyeceğim.
Look how clean it is now. You can really see the flesh now. See how white it is and see how pure it is, and all that blood's been taken out. Looks really clean. Looks like a totally different fish. But it's still soft, you know. 16 days in salt, you think it'd be rock hard, but it's still really soft. That looks beautiful. So just a little bit of dill, the fresh fish, and some of the onion. That's really good. The fish is so soft. It's not overly salty at all. Mate, nice work.
Bon appetit. Afiyet olsun.
Around here, it's not just Murat's family that hail from across the Aegean.
You know, you could easily close your eyes and just imagine you're in a Greek island here. You know, it's really quaint. It just feels like you're somewhere else, doesn't feel like you're in Turkey.
I'm looking for another speciality of mixed heritage, and I've heard that I can find it at İmran Helvaivi, a popular patisserie and cafe. And this is what I'm looking for, sweet mastic pudding.
It's just a sweet bechamel with mastic, but it doesn't taste like bechamel. You know the creamy sauce and lasagna? It's basically the same ingredients, butter, rice milk, flour, and he's put some mastic and sugar in there to finish it off, and a little bit of cinnamon on top. It's a really gorgeous flavour.
Mastic is a natural plant gum, almost exclusively from the Greek island of Chios, but mastic pudding is a Turkish invention. Hasan Olmazar is also from a population swap family. He's the third generation owner of the business, and every member of his family works with him.
Yani kültürler birbirine karışmışlar. Yani onlar bizden, biz onlardan almışık. Yani onlar diyorlar bizim. Hayır, bizim. Yok öyle bir şey. İkisi de yani bir kültür olarak aynı şekilde devam ediyor.
I suppose a lot came over in the exchange, not just a people exchange, it was a food exchange.
Bu arada
Hassan tells me that I've turned up at an auspicious time, the end of Ramadan,
bu da benim kardeşim Kayhan.
and he wants to introduce me to some of his family.
Hi. Hi, how are you? So it's Bayram now, it's the end of Ramadan.
Yeah, this is one of the most important Muslim festival. Come and join us.
I'd love to join you, thank you.
Not everyone in Turkey practices the Muslim month of fasting, but everyone gets into the feast that comes at the end, known as Bayram.
So it's a really exciting time for me to be in this part of the world. You know, I've travelled, as you know, extensively through the Middle East, but I've never been here during sort of Eid or Bayram. So it's great to see some of the food that's associated with this really festive time.
Hassan's grandmother Gulgun is making buryan.
Evet, bu büryanı yapıyoruz. Bayramlarda çoluk çocuk hep beraber toplanıp yiyoruz. Evet, pirinci haşladık. Etimizi de haşladık. Ondan sonra tepsiye yağ döktük biraz. Etimizi üstüne döşedik. Üstüne de tereyağı, tuzunu verdik.
Now these recipes that you get to learn with people who've been cooking it for years, I always feel good when there's a grandmother present because you know there's some authority.
While the buryan bakes for an hour, we get started on one of my favourite desserts, Lokma, a kind of miniature donut.
So they've got all the ingredients to make the batter for the donuts here. There's a little bit of sugar and salt and some flour. And that's pretty much all you need. It's a really simple dough.
Gulgun learnt how to make lokma from her husband's family.
İlk kayınpederim ölmüştü. Onun şeyinde bir akrabamız döktü lokma. Ona çok dikkat ettim, baktım. Sonra burada biz kafeterya işlettik, orada döktüm. Yani devamlı döktük. Sonra makineler çıkınca benim sanatım battı. Çocuklar makineyle döküyor şimdi.
Making lokma by hand is a dying art, but I reckon it always tastes better.
Straight into it, she's got a different technique to what I've used already. She's opening them up in the middle. So they're not the little balls that I know, they're almost like donuts. I've made these before where you just squeeze them out, but never with a hole in the middle. So these do resemble more the donuts that we know.
While I try my hand at frying, the rest of the family gets stuck into rolling some meatballs.
If you eat as a family, you should cook as a family. And it's important that things like this don't just stop here, that they're passed down through the family. It's important that you get in when you're young.
Yalın ayak, yalın ayak.
What I'm learning in Alach is that Greeks and Turks are now less divided by their history and more united by shared food and culture. So with the extended family gathered and a few blow-ins like myself, Bayram gets underway. For observant Muslims like this family, it's one of the most important festivals, and there's a rule that no one eats alone.
So occasions like this are more than just what you're eating, you know, being with people that I've just met, inviting me to their home to sit at their table for a really special event like Bayram. The food is beautiful, but it's not about the food. You know, it's an amazing time to be here. But even on this side of the Turkish coast, the Greek influence is still apparent. You know, we had a very sort of Turkish meal, and then we're finishing off with a dessert that is a hot topic of debate. Is it Greek? Is it Turkish? I'm not going to be the judge. All I know is that when you get some deep fried pastry in front of you, drenched in honey, I don't care where it's from, it's good.
The connection between this part of Turkey and Greece goes back thousands of years. An hour and a half east of Alach is the ancient city of Ephesus. And although these ruins are Roman, there are several layers to the story, or so says archaeologist Sabine Ludstatter.
Hi.
Hi, welcome in Ephesus.
No, thank you. It's pretty impressive.
Yes.
So how many people would have been sort of living in this city?
Ephesus was one of the largest cities of the Roman Empire. It had about 250,000 inhabitants in the 2nd century AD. It was founded 1000 BC by Greeks coming from Athens, and then it was taken over by the Romans in 133 BC, and it became the capital of the province of Asia, which was the wealthiest province in the ancient world.
But there's not much sort of remnants of Greek remains. It all seems very Roman.
The Greek remains there 7 meters deeper than the Romans are.
Wow. So they just built on top of them.
Yes, it's more or less a Roman city, but the citizens of Ephesus, they really remained Greek. So the inscriptions here, and we have thousands of inscriptions here in Ephesus, 95% of them are written in Greek language, and only a few are written in Latin.
Although Sabine's home base is in Vienna, as director of excavation at Ephesus, she spent enough time here to get to know some of the locals really well. And not far away, above yet another Greek village abandoned in the population swap, she wants me to meet one of the most colourful locals of all.
And Sevan, who we'll meet now, is Armenian, and he opened a restaurant here. It's a very delicious food, organic food.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Shane.
How are you?
Welcome. Good. Thank you.
Mate, what an amazing place. I don't know which window to look out of first.
All of them are good. We have almost a complete panorama of Şirince, which is a beautiful village. It's a historic village, as you know.
It's breathtaking.
It's an old Greek village, which has somehow kept most of its historic character intact. You are very lucky today because we have something unusual on the menu today, because this morning I got a call from our Mustafa the Ironmonger, who has shot a boar up in the place.
That sounds like something out of a fairy tale.
It's true. And it's right now in the oven, if you want to see it.
I'd love to.
Okay, let's go into the kitchen. Take a look.
Hi.
Hey, this is it. This is İlknur, our
Hi,
cook.
how are you? That's the wild boar.
Since this morning, it was put in a mixture of vinegar and milk, and with some spices and some bay leaves. Because wild boar is a very tasty animal. However, it has very little fat, and it is quite hard. It can be very hard. So actually softening it and making it juicier, keeping it juicy is the trick.
Okay, yeah.
Savan is a well-known character in these parts, a little wild at heart, and I'm wondering if this rebellious streak extends to his choice of meat.
I've got a question for you though. I thought that
What?
pork in this country was a no-no.
It's unusual. I mean, Turkey is a Muslim country. Of course, the Muslim religion considers a boar or pig or pork taboo. There are very few restaurants in this country which actually serve pork,
Okay.
and we are one of those.
To flavour this forbidden fruit, İlknur's preparing a mix of rosemary, garlic, homemade olive oil, some of that famous Turkish pul biber, salt and peppercorns. To rub into the boar.
Just gets placed over the
Exactly.
top.
Yeah.
The technique is something that we'd use in the restaurant back in Melbourne.
Okay.
And even the flavour profile, they're really beautiful spices. Looks great.
The finished leg is going to need about 2 hours in the oven. Lucky for me, they've got one that İlknur's prepared earlier.
This is actually the other half of the same leg.
Smells great.
Now we're going to wrap it in
Wrap what?
in
wrap
pastry.
the meat.
Yeah.
And this is Yufka pastry, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
This is a bit of an all-purpose pastry in Turkey. Use it in burek and
It's just
use it to wrap things, sweet and savoury. It's a really beautiful pastry. So you got the soft meat inside with all the juice, and then that crunchy pastry on top.
yeah.
So it's sort of a Turkish version of an Australian meat pie.
I'd say it's the other way around. The Australian is an Australian version of the Turkish meat pie.
Well, I love the cuisine that you've created here. I'm
you
starting to
very
really like it now.
Yeah.
Once you put the Yufka over the top, it's really sort of caught my attention. I'm thinking, wow, it's going to be a great dish.
It's this melting pot of food culture that serves up both the classics and the unexpected. If there's one thing I've really missed on my Middle Eastern travels, it's the joy of pork.
Wonderful. Now let's cut this animal.
Looks good, mate. It smells great. I think Mustafa, the ironmonger, will be happy.
He's happy when he's paid. Baby slice.
You know, it doesn't taste like the Turkish food that I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that rosemary sort of, you know,
Yeah.
it reminds me more of Europe than Turkey. But then you get the red pepper coming through afterwards, which is really beautiful.
Wild boar was a typical Roman dish. We started today in Ephesus. No.
It's true, and finishing it with a Roman style dish.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
To bring back the Greek-Turkish flavours, I'm going to make a cured salmon, Yufka wrapped wild boar, and my own version of a mastic pudding.
So that Aegean side of Turkey was kind of the Turkey that everybody knows. It's very Greek-inspired, lots of dips, lots of fresh, abundant seafood. One of the most interesting things I saw was the lakerda, that sort of cured fish in that salt water. I've got a lot more respect for it now, seeing how much time and effort goes into that final production. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cure some salmon in some carrot and cardamom and serve it with some pickled veg and salt and vinegar jelly. And that really sums up alach for me. So firstly,
Skin the salmon and square up a nice-sized fillet.
now what I want to do is I want to lightly cure the salmon and I want to infuse it with some flavour. Not like what they did in alach, which was amazing, great process, but it took so long. I haven't got time for that. And I don't think you do at home either. So all I'm going to do is I want to infuse it with some carrot and cardamom. I think those flavours work really well with salmon. So
Into the blender goes carrot, a cup of cardamom, and equal parts of sugar and salt.
have a look at that. All you can see in there is those black dots. They're the seeds from inside the pot, and you can smell that. It smells like roasted cardamom straight away. Just need to let that sit in the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours.
To go with the salmon, I'm making a salt and vinegar jelly. Bring into the boil the sugar syrup, some sherry vinegar, and agar. This will help set the jelly nice and firm.
That's done. Into a tray that I've sprayed with some canola oil and in the fridge until it's set.
To really bring this dish together, I'm going to pickle some fennel. First up, I'm blanching the fennel and then cooling it in an ice bath. Then it sits in a pickling juice made up of equal parts of vinegar and brown sugar for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. Now, as soon as I opened that fridge, all I could smell was that cardamom hitting me straight in the face. So I know that the flavour of that is going to be all the way through the salmon. What I need to do is wash all that off, pat it dry, before I can serve it. So I've got my fish, and I've got my jelly. That's nicely set. So I'm just going to tip that out, and I'm just going to cut that up into the pieces that I want. Now it's just time to slice up the salmon. What I've got is a couple of purees of different vegetables that I saw in the region of Alach. I've got some corn, a little bit of pumpkin, and some beetroot. So this is supposed to invoke those flavours of Alach. Everything was light, everything was bright, everything was really fresh. A little bit of this olive oil powder that I've made. Now it's just olive oil mixed with tapioca maltodextrin. So all that does is it creates a powder out of a liquid. And I'm pretty happy with that. And that's my flavours of the Aegean coast.
This next dish is taking me back to the time I spent with Savan in his restaurant, with the wild boar.
I really loved how the bottom of the dish was almost a bit stodgy from the juice of the boar, and the top was really crunchy. So I'm going to recreate the dish my own style. Starting off with some boar mince. I've got some potatoes. So I love those roast potatoes that he had in there. I'm just going to push that through. Some black pepper, a bit of this Turkish pul biber. This is the dark stuff, which has got a really fiery palate. Some coriander powder, some crushed garlic, caramelised onions, and of course some rosemary. I've got some really nice young rosemary, and these are all the flavours that he used up in the hills. To that, I'm going to add something that he didn't add, but I think is really one of the sort of main flavours of turkey, apart from that spice, is capsicum paste. Now it's made in a really similar way to tomato paste, just sun-dried, pureed and preserved. Heaps of flavour in there. It's going to be a really tasty dish. All we're going to do
is wrap this up in some of that gorgeous Yufka pastry. And if you can remember, he had his wrapped around the top of the boar, went really crunchy, but the stuff that was sitting in the side, that was the best bit. So I've made a little stock with the bones of the boar and all those base flavours that he roasted the boar in. So I've got bay leaves, rosemary, and a little bit of coriander seed. And I'm just going to add about a ladleful of that to my mix, just to moisten it and bring all those flavours into the meat. And let that meat suck up all that juice. And you want it to be nice and moist. That stage is done. So, a bit of Yufka pastry, which is that gorgeous stuff that they wrap the boar in. You can't find it, you can use phyllo. So I'm just going to cut it down the guts to separate it, so I can essentially make 2 big boar logs that I'm going to roll up in that pastry. Okay, so you can see all the flavours that we put in there, you know, the caramelised onions, the potato, the rosemary, all the spices, and just by seeing that mince filling, you know this is going to be a cracker dish. So really easily, I'm just going to fold it over. Don't need to be tight, doesn't need to be nice, just needs to be wrapped. So I'm just going to keep rolling those, fill up that whole tray, cover the bottom with a bit of stock, some olive oil, and that's ready for baking. About 20 to 30 minutes, 180 to 200 degrees. That looks and smells amazing. You know, this is something I'm going to end up cooking up at my house for my family. It's a great dish. I know what it's going to be like in the bottom, but I have to taste this. I have to taste it. So, nice and crunchy. Now, I know it's going to be piping hot. I always do this and always burn the hell out of my mouth, but I want to taste it. It's really hot, but it's really good. If anyone doesn't like that, I don't care who you are, there's something wrong with you. That's a cracking dish. That's my Alach style roast Yufka and boar. One of the highlights of Alach was the beautiful mastic pudding I had in Hassan's cafe. The sweet bechamel based has given me a great idea for dessert. And I think my flavour combination of blackberries, mastic pudding, and rosemary-infused tapioca is a real winner. While I'm boiling the tapioca for 15 minutes, I can start on the mastic pudding. I'm combining milk and bulgur rice, or you could use sushi rice. Then, mastic beads are added to the sugar and ground up. So once that's all ground up like a powder, into the milk. The last piece of the puzzle is a thickening agent for the mastic pudding. That comes in the form of a simple roux. All right, so all that rice is cooked in that milk. Now we're going to slowly start adding this roux just to thicken it up. All right, now all that flour is cooked out into the milk, and that's done. The tapioca's done, so I strain it out and blend it with a rosemary-infused honey to give it some sweetness. Now, it's really easy to infuse honey. All I've done is I've put the honey in a pot, got it nice and warm, a heap of fresh rosemary, poured the honey over it in a jar, and left it, and that can keep for ages. Something to do in your own kitchen. So the tapioca soaks up all the flavour of the honey. So, nearly done. A nice spoon of the mastic pudding as the base. Some of that really gorgeous rosemary and honey tapioca pearls. Some chocolate soil and a fresh blackberry sorbet round off the flavours. I'm just going to garnish it with a chocolate churro mix that we've piped out to look like little twigs, which is going to really bring together that theme of all that foraged berries and mastic and all those flavours from around the Alach region. And that looks pretty good. Looks beautiful. Looks really too good to eat. So that's mastic, rosemary, and a G and blackberries.